The power struggle between warlords Hatch and Lang ends in victory for Lang, who celebrates a day of liberation every year in honor of this. All of Hatch's followers are publicly executed, and those less fortunate are sent to military prisons. The prisons to which the prisoners are sent are more like hard labor. The men work in the quarry, and each of them has an iron mask over his mouth that allows only liquid food, no talking, no eating, no breathing with their mouths. In the center of the quarry, there is a giant meat grinder in which chains are strapped to the legs of the prisoners. One day, the grinder stops and the warden orders Kai to fix it. A new prisoner is brought to the quarry, and while all the guards are busy, one of the prisoners tries to start a riot, but another starts up the crusher and the chain pulls the rebel in. The newcomer looks around and, signaling to the sniper, he too begins a riot. The warden starts up the meat grinder again, this time setting up a mode that should draw out all the prisoners. To save himself and his comrades' lives, Kai tries to disable the program, but the chain by the leg pulls him into the millstone. Grabbing a machine gun, the guy tries to shoot the chain off, and when he fails, Kai gets rid of the shackles along with his leg. Kai wakes up in Hatch's house and discovers he's wearing a prosthetic leg. The warlord removes Kai's mask and tells him that he has been fighting Lang's prisons for years, and now he needs the ex-convict's help. He must infiltrate the ship and get information, after which Hatch promises the lad to take him from there so they can go together to New Holland and save Kai's father, whom Lang plans to execute on the day of his release. Once on the ship, Kai taps into the computer and Hatch uses his earpiece to tell him exactly what he needs, whereupon he asks the guy to send him the information without waiting for him to return. As soon as Kai starts sending, something starts happening to the ship. It drops the capsules with the passengers and flies to an unknown planet. The guy wakes up and runs outside, but he immediately has to go back for his helmet. The atmosphere turns out to be toxic. Kai tries to get information from the onboard computer, but the program requires authorization, and the only thing it warns him about is that the oxygen level is dropping rapidly. Oleander, the commander of the main ship, contacts the survivors. He asks everyone to gather at the crash site. Kai steps away from the shuttle and tries to contact Hatch. The pilot notices Oleander's body and a capsule from which a young girl is getting out. The guy gives Taran his mask and carries the girl to the shuttle, not noticing the dead man being dragged under the rocks by some creature. Upon coming to her senses, the girl guesses that the guy was on the ship illegally. The young men go in search of the wreckage, and Taran notices that the fallen metal is oxidizing rapidly, which means that the toxic atmosphere will eventually corrode human skin. Through his scope, Kai notices a ship, and next to it, he sees a glowing rock with electric shocks running through it. Taran guesses that Kai is Hatch's mercenary, and she promises to get him a fair trial, assuring the boy that he is mistaken about the warlord. But the boy refuses to fly with the army to Earth to avoid going back to prison. After giving the girl her weapon, Kai leaves. Kai tries to fly away, but Reef's computer reminds him that he has no authority. Then the pilot tries to find out official information about Hatch, and he only manages to watch a recording of the old man's interrogation, in which he admits his crimes against Lang and his desire for a more violent prison. Kai finds Taran and says he'll try to fly away, but they need to hurry. The escape pods leave the planet in a few minutes. On Taran's advice, Kai takes off his clothes, so the crew members won't realize he's a saboteur, but it doesn't help. The pair don't make it in time and the pods rise into the sky. While Taran looks after them, Kyle finds himself in the clutches of an unknown creature, which drags him under the rocks. The girl arrives in the shuttle and removes her helmet, preparing to fall asleep due to the lack of oxygen, but the computer tells Taran something that makes her struggle. She goes to the rock that Kai recently saw, and next to it turns out to be the guy himself, covered in slime. After dragging him to the shuttle, Taran discovers that he's no longer susceptible to air toxicity. Kai doesn't remember anything, but he admits to feeling much better. The girl admits that there are no more escape pods, but she has found someone who can lift the shuttle. The pair arrive at the glowing stone, which turns out to be a thin shell around Oleander's body. The commander does not regain consciousness, and Kai scans his retinas with the device so they can take off. The engine starts and the guy is about to take off without Oleander, but Taran reminds her mate that they used to know each other. When she was a child, Kai served for her father, and he would never leave a friend to die. Oleander comes to his senses and starts rambling on about Hatch and a heart to be destroyed. Kai tries to stop the commander, but fails, and he shoots Taran in the helmet, hitting the pilot himself. Kai loses his consciousness and wakes up in the middle of the desert, unclothed and wounded. He finds Taran's skeleton at the scene. Reef tells the boy that he's been gone for 34 days and the shuttle engine is burnt out, which means the boy may not take it back in time for the day of release to save his father. Picking up the debris across the desert, Kai tries to fix the engine. One night he wakes up to strange noises and something strange starts happening to him. But instead of information, the computer asks the pilot to leave the ship. The man runs to the cave and in the darkness he sees a huge jaw. Kai tries to hide, but his body begins to twist and turn into a monster. Everything repeats. Kai wakes up already in normal form. Only this time he remembers what happened and taking the axe, the pilot asks Reef to help him get rid of the creature inside. Kai's afraid he won't have time to start the shuttle before release day, but the computer tells the guy that he is too late. Release day was celebrated 2 days ago while he was passed out. 3 years pass. All this time, Kai has to get along with the monster inside and the guy's only entertainment is nightly flights or fireflies. When Kai returns from one of these shows, he realizes the fence is broken and traces have been left around the shuttle. From Reef, the boy learns that whoever broke into his house stole Taran's picture. The computer examines Kai's condition and discovers that it is similar to Oleander's. The only difference is that the commander is permanently turned into a monster, while Kai is turned from time to time. According to Reef, if they had samples of Oleander, they could try to overcome the anomaly. To do this, the computer suggests that Kai die, leave this body in order to be reborn in a new one, as happens every time he mutates. Kai realizes that this is his only chance, and at night the guy braces himself outside, baiting the monster. When the monster arrives, Kai emerges from the darkness and destroys it. Reef analyzes the tissues and confirms that they are an exact match to Oleander's. He's the one who keeps attacking Kai. In a conversation with the computer, Kai mentions biology and Reef asks permission to talk to him about Taran. After getting consent, the intellect lets Kai listen to a recording of the night the commander shot the girl in the helmet and the guy learns that Taran is alive. Besides, if Kai finds the heart Oleander screamed about, his torment will end. Kai reworks his virtual friend so he can go in search of the heart with him. The boy's going to go where Reef thinks Taran is gone. The travelers go through the entire desert and find tunnels. Reef helps his buddy scan them, but accidentally turning on a loud noise wakes up the computer to a terrifying creature that pounces on Kai. The pilot finds a wall with Oleander's head sticking out of it and Kai's own head. It is the heart Reef was talking about. The guy gets rid of the Oleander and goes to the place where Reef last fixed Taran. Finding traces of the ship's launch, Kai is happy to realize that the girl is alive and managed to fly away. Kai brings his old prosthetic limb with him from the tunnel, and he finds a grenade in it. At that moment, burned capsules start falling from the sky, and Kai tries to figure out what's going on. Reef again shows him information about the prison that Lang's army is supposedly creating, and Kai realizes that what Hatch really wanted was to take over. A shuttle hovered over Kai, and after a few minutes the guy sees Hatch. The old man tells the mercenary that he just got his notes and is very surprised that they're several years long. 20 minutes have passed since the pilot went to the ship for information. Hatch knocks Kai out, and when he opens his eyes, Taran is in front of him. The old dictator demands the mercenary's data from the ship, threatening to destroy the girl, but Kai realizes that Hatch needs the information to take over the prison. Even though Kyle tells him where he hid the data, Hatch's guard still removes Taran's mask. The old man himself finds the package and decides to get rid of the witnesses, but instead he detonates the bomb that Kai had prepared for him. Kai mutates and turns into a monster. He smashes his computer and attacks Taran, but the girl manages to shout at her friend and he returns to his normal state. Hatch turns out to be alive and back he takes revenge on Kyle for not giving him power over the planet, which turns out to be a prison thanks to the strange flow of time. This time Kai manages to summon the monster without losing his mind, and he fights off the old man. After taking Reef, Kyle and Taran fly to Earth to save the world from the second dictator, Lang, as well, while Hatch remains in place as a mercenary.